Everyone said Elara Vale was fortunate. She did not feel fortunate as she stood beneath the arch of pale flowers, her hands folded tightly in front of her, listening to vows she had never agreed to make. Across from her stood Rowan Blackmere, her worst enemy. Their families had hated each other for generations over old land disputes, broken alliances, whispered betrayals that no one fully remembered anymore. Elara and Rowan had grown up on opposite sides of that feud, taught from childhood to see the other as arrogant, cruel, and untrustworthy. Rowan had always been everything Elara disliked, quiet where she was outspoken, controlled where she was emotional, watching instead of speaking. When they were children, they argued constantly. As teenagers, they barely spoke at all, and now they were being married. Not for love, not even for peace, but for survival. The agreement had been simple: unite the families or watch them both fall. Crops failing, debts rising, enemies circling. The marriage was meant to end the feud and save them all. Elara had said no. Her family had said yes anyway. As Rowan slid the ring onto her finger, his touch was careful, distant. He did not smile. He did not look triumphant. If anything, he looked resigned. When the ceremony ended, applause filled the air. Elara felt none of it. She felt only the weight of a life she had not chosen closing around her. That night, she slept in a bed that felt unfamiliar and cold, staring at the ceiling, promising herself one thing: this marriage will not define me. Life with Rowan was quiet. Too quiet. They shared meals with polite distance, conversations limited to necessities. Rowan never raised his voice, never criticized her, never tried to control her, which somehow made it worse. Elara had expected cruelty. She had prepared for anger. She had braced herself for power struggles and resentment. Instead, she lived with a man who treated her like a guest who might leave at any moment. He rose early and returned late. When he was home, he read or worked silently by the fire. When Elara spoke, he listened but never pressed, never asked more than she offered. It unsettled her. One evening, frustration finally spilled over. "Do you hate me that much?" she demanded. Rowan looked up, startled. "What? You barely speak to me. You act as if I'm not here." He set his book aside. "I didn't want to make this harder for you." "That's not an answer." Rowan hesitated, then said quietly, "I thought if I stayed out of your way, you'd feel less trapped." Elara had no response to that. That night, she cried not because of him, but because she realized how alone she truly felt. The danger came without warning. One evening, Elara overheard a conversation she was never meant to hear. Voices low, urgent, speaking of betrayal, of using her marriage as leverage, of turning her into a pawn if things went wrong. She realized then that she was not safe. Not in this house. Not in this life. Before dawn, Elara packed a small bag. She left no note, no goodbye. She slipped into the mist and ran. By the time Rowan discovered her absence, she was already miles away. He searched for days, but Elara vanished as if the earth itself had hidden her. Freedom did not feel the way Elara had imagined. She traveled under false names, worked small jobs, slept in borrowed rooms. Every unfamiliar sound set her nerves on edge. Every stranger felt like a threat. She told herself it was better than being trapped, but loneliness followed her like a shadow. Weeks turned into months. In a quiet coastal town far from her past, Elara found work at a small inn run by an older woman named Maribel. The days were simple: cleaning rooms, serving meals, listening to travelers' stories. It was there she met Jonah. He arrived one stormy evening, soaked and shivering, with a crooked smile and kind eyes. He spoke easily, laughed often, and treated Elara like she mattered. They talked over cups of tea, about books, about dreams, about starting over. Jonah didn't ask where she came from. He didn't demand explanations. For the first time in a long while, Elara felt seen not as a daughter, not as a wife, not as a bargaining piece, but as herself. Love crept in quietly, unexpectedly, and she welcomed it. Jonah was everything Rowan was not. Open, warm, expressive. With Jonah, Elara laughed freely. She shared stories. She imagined a future that felt light instead of heavy. They walked along the shore at sunset, the wind tangling their hair. He spoke of building something real, perhaps a small shop, perhaps a life that belonged only to them. Elara almost believed she had escaped her past completely, almost, until one evening, she saw a familiar figure standing across the square. Rohan? He looked thinner, tired, but unmistakably himself. Their eyes met. The world seemed to hold its breath. Rowan did not confront her publicly. He waited. Later that night, Elara found him by the edge of the harbor. "You ran," he said quietly. "I had to," she replied. "I know." She turned, surprised. "You do?" "I found out what they planned," Rowan said. "After you left, I stopped it, but it was already too late." Silence stretched between them. "I never wanted to trap you," he continued. "I wanted to protect you, even if it meant letting you go." Elara's chest tightened. "You could have forced me back," she said. "I wouldn't," Rowan replied. "I won't." She realized then how little she had truly known him. Jonah deserved honesty, so Elara told him everything. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, he reached for her hands. "You were surviving," he said gently. "I can't blame you for that." But love, she realized, was not always enough. Jonah loved the person she had been becoming. Rowan had loved her even when she was silent, angry, distant. One had offered escape. The other had offered understanding. Elara spent a sleepless night weighing her heart. By morning, she knew. Elara found Rowan at dawn. "I don't hate you," she said. "I never did. I hated the choice. The fear. The life forced on me." Rowan nodded. "I know. I don't know what the future looks like," she continued. "But I want it to be honest. Equal, chosen." Rowan looked at her then. Not as an enemy, not as an obligation, but as a woman standing freely before him. "I would choose you," he said. "Every time. But only if you choose me too." She did, and for the first time, the choice was hers. They did not return to the old house. They built something new. A life shaped not by duty, but by understanding. Their love was not loud or dramatic but steady, growing stronger through truth and patience. Elara sometimes thought about the girl who had run away in the night. She did not regret her, because the road away had led her back not to her enemy, but to the love she never expected to find.